If we were to take a look at the math that's being tested on the SAT, you'd find that it's pretty basic. It's algebra, arithmetic, and geometry. The test makers would like you to think that there's some Algebra 2 on the question or on the test, but there really isn't. They deal with functions, and most of us have seen functions by the time we are in Algebra 1. So the trouble with the test is that for a lot of you, you're basically forgetting a lot of what's being tested. For instance, we all know what even and odd numbers are. Okay, 1 is odd, 2 is even, 9 is odd. How about 0? Is 0 even, odd, or neither? You'd be surprised how many people think it's neither, but 0 is actually even. Another thing that we talk about in math are prime numbers. And most of you know that the definition of a prime number is something which is divisible only by itself in 1. So a number like 5 or 7 or 11. How about the number 1? Is 1 prime? Certainly looks like it should be, but it's the exception. So 1 is not prime. So what you're going to find on this test is that a lot of this stuff goes back to 5th and 6th grade, when you may not have been paying as much attention as you should have been. So we're going to spend some time reviewing all these concepts so that we're going to take you right through 7th grade math all the way through the first part of Algebra 2. The math section is by far and away one of the most coachable sections on the SAT. I fully expect that you'll raise your scores by at least 100 points in this section, and if you're scoring below 550 right now, I'd expect even more. Critical reading. It's the second section we're going to talk about, and it's pretty straightforward. There are only 2 different types of questions here. You have sentence completion and you have reading comprehension. As you've probably noticed, the only thing that makes sentence completion difficult is vocabulary. If you knew all the words, you'd have no trouble with that. So obviously vocab is something that we're going to work on. And then there's reading comprehension. I think anybody who's taken a standardized test has had that moment where he's trying to read the question or read a passage, and he's reading it as closely as he can, and he gets about halfway through. And his eyes start to focus on a word, and the word gets fuzzy, and he starts to think about what he did last night or what he's doing tomorrow night. You just get confused. Or the other side of that is that people try to read it as closely as they can, and they get down to the end of a passage and they look up and think, what the hell did I just read? Okay, so these are the 2 question types in reading. So basically you've got reading skills and vocab skills, and that's it. What we're going to do is teach you how to actively skim the reading passages and how to locate the information in the passage that'll actually help you answer the questions correctly. For the sentence completion, we'll help you get the easy and medium questions correct, quickly and accurately. And then on the most difficult questions, we'll show you how to eliminate as many answer choices as you can, so you're really maximizing your chances when you're guessing. On top of this, we'll teach you the 300 most commonly tested words on the SAT, which should make this section a breeze for you. Hopefully, you should be able to raise your scores at least 50 or 60 points. If you're really diligent with the vocabulary, more than 100 points is not out of the question. The third section on the SAT is the writing section, which is actually a little bit of a misnomer because it's not testing your writing skills as much as it's testing your grammar skills. The first thing you're going to do when you go in to take the SAT is you're going to have a 25-minute essay on a topic that they provide. And following that, you're going to have 2 separate sections for the grammar test. Oddly enough, the grammar is going to account for about 70% of your score on the writing test, and the essay is only going to involve about 30% of it. The trouble with the writing test is that they are testing standard written English. Standard written English is a lot different than speaking English. If you actually spoke the way that you're supposed to write, you probably wouldn't have any friends. Knock, knock, who is it? It is I. It doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 sentences, and you have to decide which one's correct and which one's incorrect. Anyone who watched this year's Super Bowl would say that they saw a great game. That's number 1. Number 2, none of us is responsible for another's actions. The odds are that you probably thought the first sentence sounded correct and the second one sounded incorrect. But let's take a look at this. Anyone who saw this year's Super Bowl would say that they saw a great game. That's incorrect because anyone is a singular pronoun, and later in the sentence they replace it with the word they, which is plural. So pronouns have to agree, and these don't. So that's why the first one is incorrect. For the second question, our subject is none, and our verb is is. As odd as that looks, it's correct because none is a singular pronoun, just like he, and so it has to be followed with the word is, because you'd say he is, just like you'd say none of us is. The multiple choice questions that you'll have on the writing test focus on about a dozen mistakes that lots of us make pretty often. We'll teach you how to identify and fix these mistakes so that you can kind of breeze through here. The first question type that you're going to encounter is error identification. And what they'll do is they'll give you a sentence which will have various parts of the sentence underlined, and what you have to do is choose the answer choice which will fix the problem in the original sentence. Answer choice E is always no error, which means the sentence is fine the way it is. Answer choice E with error identification will be right roughly 1/5 of the time. The second question type you're going to encounter is sentence correction. And again, they'll give you a sentence which may or may not have some mistakes in it, and they'll underline various parts of that sentence. You'll be given 5 answer choices, 4 of which will give you an alternate to what the original sentence said, and answer choice E, or answer choice A, which will repeat the original sentence. Answer choice A in this section is right roughly 1/5 of the time also. The third question type is paragraph correction. So they'll give you a paragraph which has been written poorly, and then they'll have you go through and make some edits and corrections to try to make it a little bit smoother. There are only 6 question types that deal with paragraph correction, so it's probably the least important thing you'll encounter. Also, there's a 25-minute essay, and what we'll do is we'll teach you how to get the most out of that 25 minutes so that the person reading your essay will think you're a great writer, you have a lot to say, and hopefully you'll get either a 4 or 5, and if you're a decent writer, even a 6.